Welcome back, y'all, and happy Tuesday. This is the Bluechip Breakdown. I'm your host, Bull. It's time for our Day 5 of spring practice news, notes, and thoughts. Please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I want to start this thing off a little bit differently. We got to hear from several people that spoke today after practice, but I want to start this off by taking a look at the visitors that were up today on campus. So we've got some really good ones. Up at the top, we have Zyon Gibson, 2026 four-star cornerback, currently committed to Alabama. We've got a couple of others, and we will talk a little bit more about Zyon here in just a minute. But we've got a few others. So we've got a couple of DNs from 2027. We've got a wide receiver also from 2027 and a quarterback from 2029. So, those things look good. Actually, I haven't seen if Tennessee's been doing like if we talk too much to any players or any quarterbacks from 2027. That's one that I need to be, kind of like looking out for, because as we talked about with Champ Mons in 2028. He's a guy that I feel like he really should try to reclass up to 2027. But I'm curious to see, are they going to try to go all in for a Champ Mons? And like we talked about, will they try to go get like a four-star in 2027? Maybe in 2029 as well. I mean, I'm sure that they want to bring in the best players as possible. But either way, the whole point here is we got a few guys that came up that did look good. So, or they do look good. But I also want to talk a little bit more about Zyon Gibson. All right, so like we said, he is currently committed to Alabama, four-star guy. And On3 has him as the number 62 ranked player nationally. They have him as the number 10 ranked cornerback. And him coming from Gadsden City, I feel like they have so many really good cornerbacks that come out of there. I want to say that, and I feel like they always go to Alabama too, so it must be pretty close to Alabama. But I want to say, was it Drake Kirkpatrick? Like they had a cornerback that was 6'2", 6'3". I think he was in the 2009 class, 2010 class, something like that. But that was at the time when cornerbacks were a little bit shorter. Like the cornerbacks would be, 5'10", maybe 6 feet. 6 feet tall was tall for cornerbacks back then. But now, you're wanting the guys that are a little bit taller. So he's 6'1", 174 pounds. Let me go ahead and scroll this thing down. Y'all can see, again, he is currently committed to Alabama. They've got Auburn up in the mix. Hopefully he does not go to Georgia. I'd rather him go to Alabama than to go to Georgia. LSU, they're doing a whole lot of really good things. You don't see Tennessee up here at this point, but like we usually say, the stuff with On3 is going to be a little bit outdated sometimes. So I do want to take a look though at his film, right? So we'll just pull up his clips, and what I'll do while y'all are watching that is I will start to go through some of my notes. So Tennessee got to hear from Coach Heupel today. We also heard from Ethan Davis. That's one of our tight ends. Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley, and Chris Brazzell. So I'll touch on some of the notes that I took away from what Coach Heupel had to say. Number one, he was asked about the wide receiver room, who's stepping up as the leader. He didn't really name one. So I don't think that was necessarily a cop-out, but I do think that he's maybe waiting on some people to step up. It's really only one vet inside of that room. I mean, we have Mike Matthews, who would have played the second most. Then we have Braylon Staley, who didn't really play as much. He was kind of banged up. But, somebody needs to step up. Somebody needs to be that vocal leader. We'll kind of talk about some of the other players as we go throughout this. But he also thinks that Staley has taken a step forward with his play. Feels like the game's kind of slowing down for him. He understands where to go. He understands the coverages and things like that very well. We know that Tennessee loves to run option routes. So that's, the coverage can kind of dictate the routes that these guys will run. So, for me, I feel like it should be pretty easy. But, I'm kind of like a football junkie. Everyone's not like that. So, it's something, I guess, to get acclimated for most people coming in the first year in Coach Heupel's system to understand how to operate, with those option routes and things like that. But it's definitely good to know that Braylon Staley, who's probably going to be starting for us in the slot, which is, we all know, I mean, you go back, look at Hyatt, that's a really big spot. I think he's going to have a very big year. But it was good for me to hear Coach Heupel kind of say some of the same things that we felt like we were seeing throughout spring camp up to this point. He also talks about spring being a time for us to look at our personnel, see what they can handle, and also try different schemes. That kind of stood out to me. That lets us know that, hey, they are trying some different schemes. Obviously, Nico talked about it. We will go deeper into what we think that's going to look like. But all of that, yes, that's what you're supposed to do in spring. So just because they're trying some things, it doesn't mean that that's what they're going to run in the season. It's what we're good at. So I think that I think hopefully we will be good at some of the things that we feel like the offense needs to do to take that next step forward. Making it to the playoffs, y'all, that's great. Okay, Coach Heupel's had a ton of success with this team. I'm never going to, try to say, hey, he hasn't been good, because he's been very good. But there is another step that this team can take. And I'm just happy to see that Coach Heupel is willing to try some different things out. But let's go on to some other points. He thinks that Boo has handled moving, playing some on offense very well. Or he said up to this point. He also talks about Jefferson, the transfer wide receiver from Alabama that really should have came to Tennessee coming out of high school. He talks about, he's taking that next step forward to working towards being full speed, which means, getting full contact and things like that. He actually was in a yellow a yellow jersey today instead of the red non-contact jersey. So this is my first time seeing any players in yellow for Tennessee. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means, but it is a step up for sure from having on red. We will be scrimmaging on Monday night. I thought that it would have been this weekend, but that's going to come on Monday. They've got a coaching clinic that's coming up, I think, this weekend, and then the coaches that do come up for that clinic will be able to watch practice on Saturday. So they probably don't want to have an open scrimmage like that to all the coaches. And, so that's probably why I guess it moved from Saturday to Monday, or maybe I was just off on my dates. Either way, and the team has also been very physical up to this point. And let me get this on up out of the way for y'all. We'll take that on down. So he also talked about the team has been very physical up to this point, which that is music to my ears. Coach Heupel is not one of the he's a real ball coach, right? So whenever he talks about the team being physical, he really means that. Like, that's not coach speak. So that really stood out to me. That's a great sign. I probably should have led with that. That's a beautiful sign for this team. You got to be physical. That's what football is. It's all about physicality. We know that Coach Heupel loves the physicality. He loves the toughness. And I think that he has, instilled that kind of like bully ball mindset for everybody. And I'm just happy to see that they're carrying that over from what we did last season, especially with all those vets leaving from up front. The next thing is he talked about Ethan Davis. He said that he's being a lot more consistent with his play. He talks about him working inside of the weight room. I mean, we can all see that, physically, visibly, he definitely looks a lot bigger, stronger. And we'll talk about Ethan Davis, how he feels about it here in just a minute. And also sounds like he's very excited about our transfer guards. So those are all, for me, those are all some really good notes. Let's get on to what Ethan Davis had to say. So number one, he feels very confident this season. He said that Miles Kitselman has been pushing him. It sounds like maybe it was last season when Miles Kitselman told Ethan Davis, "Hey, look, it's crunch time. It's time to go to work." And they're also really close. I love to see that, y'all. That's something that probably gets overlooked, but it's such a big deal for the team to bond well, for them to be brothers. And you hear Ethan Davis saying that over. That's my brother. That's my brother. That's how you want it to be. Teams play a lot better whenever they really sincerely like one another. And I've been on teams, I've been a part of teams where it was not like that. That is a toxic situation, just like us going to work every day. I mean, sometimes it's toxic. We don't like the people that you're working with. So that was big for me. But next thing is going to be, he talks about being more physical, adding the weight, and but not getting stronger. So last season he had added some weight. He didn't necessarily feel any stronger. This year, I think that he feels stronger. I don't know if he outright said that, but that's a huge deal, right? Like we always talk about, look like Tarzan, play like Jane. Some of these guys can be big and strong. Like they're going to push up a whole bunch of weights inside of the weight room, but you get them out there on the field with those pads on. And you can always tell first day, whenever you hit somebody, right? You hit them, it should feel like, oh, that one kind of hurt some. That's a good sign for football players. That's a good feeling. You want to run into somebody that is sturdy, just like you. Hey, look, I popped him and he popped me right back. That's who you want to go to war with. You don't want to hit people that look real big and, they're real strong and, put up all these crazy numbers. But whenever you actually get the physical contact, it's like going through paper. That, what I'm saying? Like you start to look at them a little bit different. Like, man, what the heck's going on with you? But so I think that that's kind of what Ethan Davis is saying, that he's taking the steps. He's understanding it because he's more used to playing basketball than he is to playing football. Football is a warrior's game. You got to be a real dog. He talks about, hey, you can't shy away from the contact. You got to go find that contact. You want to be the hammer, not the nail. He talks about, sticking his face in there. I mean, using a whole lot of great, real tough football terms. So I'm happy to hear that. I just want to see it now. I want to see some more of that. I want to hear some more about it because we probably won't see too much. We probably won't see too much over the course of spring. But, he said that he's definitely focusing on just continuing to get stronger. And he also talked about Nico, just as far as his leadership, because this is something that everyone keeps on bringing up. But he talks about Nico's leadership skills. He says, hey, he's just pretty much straight to the point. So he's kind of like pull you to the side. He says what he has to say. I love leaders like that. There's, a lot of different variants to being a leader. And for me, It doesn't really matter. I just need to know that what you're saying is genuine. I need to know that what you're saying is something that you would stand on personally. And it just, based off of the way that he said it, that's what I feel like he gathers from the way that Nico's leading. So I feel fine with it. I know that he's not an overly loud guy, which again, I don't think that you really have to be. Sometimes it might work better, especially with quarterbacks typically aren't the big rah loud guy. You know what I'm saying? Like quarterbacks are typically pretty calm, laid back, chill, like they get along with everybody. You got to be a little bit more laid back to be able to get along with everyone. But whenever they speak, people should listen. So that's mostly what I gather from Ethan Davis. So next, let's talk about Mike Matthews. He talks about, his first season as a true freshman 5-star, very, very highly touted player. He said, hey, it was tough for me not playing. It was really tough. And we talked about, like, you could tell, you could see it. It was pretty visible with pretty much all of his reps. If you really watch him, you can just tell he's frustrated. Like he's out there, he's running kind of like dummy routes. The ball's not coming to him. He didn't like it. But this season, he's going to be that guy. I think that he's a player that kind of needs that. He's not a number 2. He needs to be a number 1. And I think that he's worked towards being that number 1 for this team. There's actually something else that he had pointed out. He said, look, I want to be the guy that Nico goes to. I want to be his go-to guy. So that's positive. I mean, that's how you want these guys to be. Like that's how dogs are supposed to be. Now, at the same time, they can't all be number 1s, but you have to work towards that. And I just feel like that's what Mike Matthews was kind of saying. So he also talked about Brew. Just as far as whenever Mike Matthews was still in high school, Tennessee's trying to get him. He said, hey, look, Brew, he stayed in contact with me. So I just wanted to put that in there just because it shows how much we all love Brew, right? I mean, like, this is why we love Brew, because he's really doing what it takes to help us win. I mean, just as much as he possibly can. I love hearing things like that. So he's one of my all-time favorites. No question about that. What else does he have right here? He said he's only practicing on the outside, but Mike Matthews is a guy that can play inside too. And at this point, it's okay, like, because we've got so much youth inside of that room. You don't want to give them too much. Okay, like if it's complicated, if it's a huge difference from inside to outside, let them learn one thing first. You gotta let them get good at that first, and then once they've mastered outside, let them work some inside as well, because he can do both. I think all of our wide receivers can do both. You need that versatility. That's going to help them out. Whenever it's time for them to get drafted and things like that. So I think that was interesting. Also, he talks about, there's a difference between running high school routes to running college routes, because you're going up against better competition. You got to sell the routes. You can't just, if you're going to run a out, you can't just run a daggum out. You've got to run the out like it's a fade, and then look back, put your hands up, make that DB back off, and then break. Okay, like you got to do little things like that. So I'm happy that he's picking that up. He's a dog. He's going to pick it up very, very quickly. Just the fact that he knows that mentally, I can absolutely guarantee you this season, Mike Matthews is going to be a problem. I feel it inside of my bones. I can tell by his posture, by how he's talking. Very excited about Mike. What else did he say? And then he also said that all the wide receivers are dogs. That's something that all the wide receivers said. They all said the exact same thing. I love that mindset with these guys. So let's talk about Braylon Staley. He said that, he's gotten better from learning from those older guys last season. He talked about Squirrel White, who I still love. I know that he transferred out, but we don't know what really happened. Either way, for me, Squirrel White is, he's still evolved for life. He did a lot of good things. He sacrificed for this program, but I was happy that he's mentioning those guys. I'm happy to see that brotherhood. I might say that several times throughout this video and just moving forward, but that's a really big thing. You got to be close with your guys, even whenever they leave. But he also talked about, whenever Squirrel said that he was going to leave for that portal, he said that he was ready. He said that he knew mentally, this is my time. I had to step up. Like we already talked about, the coaches have been raving about him. He's looked really good in all of his drills and things like that. He also talks about spending a whole lot of time with Coach Pope. He's always inside of his office. He's learning the different coverages, like we talked about. Coach Hype kind of pointed that out. But it's good that he is cognizant that that's what he's doing. He's like, hey, I'm going to make it a point to understand the game on a mental level, because the physical tools with all of these guys, it's there. A lot of times what takes them to that next step from being good to being great is the mental part of it. So he's really dedicating himself to that. And that spells, trouble for defenses moving forward, as far as I'm concerned, because he can definitely get it done physically. He said he's really close with Mike Matthews. We all know that. I mean, anytime they're posting pictures on social media, it seems like, they're always with one another. So really good thing right there. He said that it was also tough for him not playing as much as a freshman, and he's also working on becoming a leader for these young guys, and he's trying to, show them He's trying to lead them the same way that the veterans led him last season. So that maybe he could step up and be one of those leaders. Next and last is going to be Chris Brazzell. He talked about being more comfortable stepping up as a leader because he is the vet inside of the room. He's going to have to do it. He also wants to get better at finishing. We talked about him having the most drops on Tennessee's team last season. I think it was 6. Definitely got to get that cleaned up. Didn't start spring camp off the cleanest, but he can definitely get that. I mean, he's going to get there. He's a tremendous talent. And if for me, just kind of seeing his posture and everything, he needs a little bit more confidence. He needs a little bit more juice. I know that he is a dog, but coming off of last year, I think that it might have been a whole lot thrown at him. The expectations may have been a little bit too high, whatever. I don't want to speculate too much, but I can tell you this. He needs a whole lot of love and like a whole lot of confidence, because whenever he's playing with confidence, he's going to be pretty much unstoppable. He's 6'5". He's probably got like a 40+ inch vertical, really long arms. And he's got that toughness. He's stronger than he might look because he's so long. He might not look like, oh, he doesn't have a lot of muscles, but he's like wiry. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a problem. I just need for him to play with that confidence, go out there. Every single ball that's thrown, that's got to be yours. And I think that that's going to come. So next, he kind of talked about Dante and Brew, teaching him about the draft process. That was big for me just because it tells me, obviously, he does have the aspirations of going on to the league. And actually, in one of the clips today, and you know what I will do? I will start to play these clips for y'all. Actually, let me go ahead and pull this stuff up for y'all real quick. Let me see. Where are they at? If I can find them real quick. Okay. We'll go right here. Okay, so I'm going to start letting these things roll so that y'all can look at that while I'm just finishing up with these notes. All right, so where was I at? Okay, so I was just talking about Brazzell. Yeah, so it's big to me that he obviously does have the aspirations to go on to the league. I like players like that. Like I like the players that want to go on to the league, that understand what it takes to get there. That is, that they're like visibly searching for the answers. They want to get better. That's never going to be negative for Tennessee. That's always going to be very, very positive. So this is his send-off season. He can make himself a whole lot of money. Just go out there and daggone ball. You can make as much money as you want to make. It's up to you to put that work in and to show it in the most critical moments. Do it in crunch time, and you will be exactly where you want to be. And he also said that now he feels a lot more comfortable with the tempo. He pointed out Braylon Staley as a player that is playing with a lot more confidence. This looks a lot better. He's figured things out. So we've heard that from several different people. So that's always a very, very positive thing. Okay, now let's get to, we're going to pause from this right here. Let's get to, excuse me. All right, so we're going to start off right here with the injuries. I'm going to make sure that I say this early today, that this is not a big deal, okay, guys? You don't have to worry about this. It's not a big deal. This is football. Actually, this injury list is getting smaller. Players, it's not as many players as it was before. So don't freak out in seeing this. But both of the Jadens, they were wearing slings. They're not wearing slings anymore. What that tells me, and it also sounds like they were doing, I don't know, it sounds like they were limited. So I guess they're actually going through drills now, just going through some of like the regular drills. But at this point, the team is in full pad, so they probably can't do anything physically just yet. I don't know if they're going to be able to go by the end of spring, but maybe we'll get to see them do a little bit more. That's going to be big. I just want to see how they look, even just moving around. But they need those reps. They've gotten, I'm sure, plenty of mental reps, hopefully, but the physical reps is going to be big. So, we've upgraded several players to not even being on this list anymore. And also, let me get to this real quick. There's several streams, or I'm sorry, there's several chats that are showing up. So let me get to these real quick. So the first one is from Detailer saying that Boo should play up the ghost angle. Can't cover him. Can't shake him. Boo the ghost. Yeah. So I definitely like Boo on some ghost motions and just kind of doing like more of that ghost stuff. Just because. But you know what? I like Boo pretty much doing anything with the offense, defense, special teams. Boo is a football player, so you can put him in a lot of different spots. He's not going to be. I'm not too much worried about him picking things up. Honestly, I'm just not. Unless they try to overcomplicate it, but I think that they're going to try to make it as simple as possible so that he can see the field as much as possible on both sides. From Bow Hunting 101, what's going on, brother? Saying what's up, Blue Chip and everybody? What's going on, my dog? Saying at D, yes, sir. All right. Hey, look, I always appreciate y'all for joining us and chiming in. All right, so it looks like y'all are going back and forth right there. Let me get to this one right here from David Speaks. Is saying that he hopes Nico's field awareness improves. Okay, yes. Okay, so field awareness improves and avoids unnecessary blind pressure. Brazzell being a Cedric Tillman guy, would really help this year. Yeah, so that's the thing really is that it's not just on Nico. I know that's what's the guy from On Three. I know he put something out there today, just kind of talking about Nico. I didn't get to watch all of it, but just kind of talking about, should we be blaming Nico? Should we be down on Nico? Should we be down on the offensive line? Should we be down on the wide receivers? And football is such a team game. It's going to take for everybody to be on that same page. And if we are all on the same page, we will be successful. So it's just, it's going to take a whole lot of dedication and things like that. But yeah, I think that Brazzell could turn into one of the go-to guys. I mean, hopefully everyone kind of feels like a go-to guy for Nico. But if I had to pick out one that I really have my eye on right now, I think it's probably Travis Smith. And that's not to overlook any of the other players, but the way that Travis Smith is moving right now, it is different. It's very different. And so David Speaks is also saying, why are 3 freshmen on this list this early? So let me look. Who are the 3 freshmen that's on this list? So Jaden Lofton, like we said, coming out of high school, he had some sort of an injury. I think that he had a family member that came on here because I thought that he tore his ACL. But from what I kind of gathered with that chat, I think his family member was saying he didn't tear it and that he's fine, but he's still out. So he did something that ended his season as a senior. So that's why he would be on this list this early. Who's the other freshman? So Marion Dodd, not quite sure what happened with him. Haven't really heard what's going on there. Who else do we have that's the freshman that's on here? Christian Gass, not quite sure. One of the things that I can tell you, though, is that whenever these freshmen come up on campus, they're going to get a thorough physical. So there may have been some things that were lingering from their high school days that they never saw, that they never knew about. And in that physical, that's when they figure it out. So that's the whole point of being so thorough and having really good team doctors that can see this stuff and they know how to get these guys back on the field, get them back healthy, get them back right. So that's what we're looking at here. I would have to anticipate it's probably some things that were lingering over from high school, or maybe some of it could have been like a little bit of an issue as they're doing like off-season workouts and stuff. Maybe that's part of the case. But yeah, I mean, these guys work year round. It's not just, you know what I'm saying? Like they're not just working during football. And football season does not stop. Okay. It is year round for the players and for the coaches. You might get, they just had spring break. Some of them were still working, like Cade. He was out there working. I saw some of his clips. He looked really good. I think that most of them should have been doing some work. You need to stay in shape or you're going to come back and be gassed. But outside of that, I think maybe summertime, you might get a couple of weeks, so you might get about like a month total tops of off season. But outside of that, you're always working. So that's how players can get, banged up or injured, even though we haven't really been practicing as much. All right. So let me see. Where's the next one? Right here. This one is from Fuzzy saying, come down to 11 guys consistently doing basic things at a high level to make it work. 100%. I mean, football is such a team. It's not even just a team game, y'all. Like it's an organizational game. It's about the coaches. It's about, especially starting off with that head man. We don't have a Kirby Smart here where we've got guys getting, speeding and just being menaces and actually putting people in harm's way, putting themselves in harm's way. This is not a dangerous place because of Coach Heupel. Now, you could look at a Kirby Smart and say, well, why would I send my child to go play for this idiot? I'm asking the exact, I would never do that. To me, it's almost negligence on the parents' part. Why would you send your kids to go play for Kirby Smart? But the whole point of what I'm saying here, y'all, is that we have a really good leader. Coach Heupel, I just think from top to bottom, the entire organization, you could tell that people are bought in, and that goes a very, very long way. So, yeah, that's kind of how things have to be. All right. So I think that I'm done with all of my notes. Let's start to get into we got to skip that one. All right. So let's go on to the wide receiver room since we got to hear from them today. And, we didn't really get to see much of anything at all from them on the actual practice field. I'll bring these clips back up. Didn't really get to see much of them. So, but from what we did see, again, like there was one clip with Travis Smith. I mean, just he has so much pop, so much bounce to everything. Like you could tell that he's playing on a really confident level, on a really high level. He's going to be really, really good, and he's going to play. I haven't even seen him with pads on. He's going to play this season, and he's going to play very, very well. I think that Ra, we saw some clips from him. We talked about that. I think Pete brought it up on Saturday. He's looking really good. I've only seen really one clip of him. I don't know why. We need to see more of our wide. I want to see all of our wide receivers. Let's show them more. Jefferson, the transfer, again, sounds like he's getting more acclimated to things. And we kind of already talked about, everybody else. So there were no real notes, man, about our wide receivers. Let's talk about the tight end room since we also heard from them today. Ethan Davis looking good. We didn't really see them do much of anything today. Let me see. Who did I? Okay, so Brain. Brain was sick, so Brain is no longer on that list. So, he was on the injuries list, but he's not really injured. He was just sick, so he was being held out of practice. A lot of the guys on that list, y'all, it's not, it's not serious stuff. But I can't wait to see how these guys look. I just can't wait. Cole Harrison with the yellow jersey on today. Not quite sure what it means, but it's a good thing. It's a positive thing. He's getting better. And I'm thinking that hopefully by like Monday, he should be able to go. Maybe what the yellow means, y'all, is that they can do some like dummy work, right? Like they can hit the dummies and be physical with the dummies and the sleds, but they're not, you don't want to put them in some real contact with other players. That could maybe be what that means. I don't know. I'm just speculating. The whole point here is this tight end room is very, very deep. I think that we all know that. Let's move on to the next one, though. So quarterback. So I do have some notes right here about Tennessee's quarterbacks today. And I'm gonna pull it back up just to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay. So actually, you know what I do? I have some more notes for the wide receivers and for our ends. So it does sound like we were running some outs, but we were lined up just inside of the numbers. What that means is Tennessee is working on, hey, how do we look running some tighter sets, right? So I don't know, was that the outside wide receiver? Was that an inside wide receiver? Because, Tennessee can line up outside of the numbers all the way to the daggum sidelines with our outside guy. But, I'm curious, but that's a big deal. We have to be able to throw more outs. We got to be able to bring the splits in a little bit closer sometimes and still spread it out and still run the tempo. But it's just, for me, it's just about being more multiple. So that was good for me to hear. Now, as far as the quarterbacks go, sounds like Nico looked really sharp today. He was very accurate. Sounds like Merck. Sounds like he was like mediocre accurate. Like he maybe wasn't as sharp as he was before spring break, but he wasn't absolutely horrible. And that's going to happen. Sometimes you take a little bit of time off. Maybe you come back and you're not as crisp. But I would expect, honestly speaking, I feel like the quarterbacks, you really shouldn't. I mean, like however many days, like a couple of weeks off, you shouldn't start to not be accurate just from that. So hopefully he was doing something, and I'm sure that he was working. But that just happens sometimes. I would expect that the next practice, which I believe is going to be on Thursday, I would expect for him to be very, very sharp. Same thing with Nico, but it sounds like GMAC was kind of struggling. His passes were low. He was missing high. He was missing in a lot of different places. But GMAC is still a freshman. That's going to happen. He's not going to be perfect. We all understand that. This is a grind for him. His body's got to get acclimated to it. So sometimes you're going to hit that wall, right? Players will hit it at different times. And maybe he's kind of hit a little bit of a wall and he just needs to kind of work himself through it. But on the other side of that wall, he's going to be significantly better. And that's all that's all we're asking for. Guys just need to get better. All right. So I think that's pretty much it for the quarterbacks. Let me go on to these running backs here. And actually, let me get to, there's like a couple more chats came in. So this one is also from Fuzzy saying that it only takes one guy to miss an assignment or do something stupid off the field stuff to mess it up badly. That's another really brilliant point, Fuzzy, because we didn't even mention this, but hey, man, we made it through spring break. Nobody went to jail. Okay, we kind of touched on that. Nobody got hurt or anything. I'm not even making light of that because that's a real thing. I mean, that is dangerous. But I'm proud of our guys. I think that says a lot about the mindset of this team. Again, it starts at the top with our coaches. So excellent points there. I mean, everyone's got to be locked in on and off the field. From my dog D saying that Jordan Ross looks twitchy as heck. Dog, it's funny because I was thinking it, and then P texted me. He said the exact same thing. So yeah, Jordan Ross is looking like a real problem, and that's what we thought that he would be. And sometimes these coaches will say things in media situations to try to get to players because you're not going to handle every single player the exact same way. Some players you can come talk to them face to face and say, hey, I need for you to do this better. Some players you can yell at them. Some players, you got to love them up. Some players you need to go kind of like in a passive way and say it through the media. Now, I have no idea if that's exactly what's happening. Coach Top probably tells him, he's probably telling Jordan Ross straight to his face. He strikes me as a very straightforward sort of a guy, but I'm just saying a lot of times whenever you're hearing the coaches saying things in media, they're talking to those players. And I feel like maybe Jordan Ross has stepped up after he heard that from Coach Chop. All right, so let me get back, or let's all get back. So now we are at the guard room. Let me make sure that we didn't miss one. Okay, yep. So we're going on to Tennessee's guard room, and I have some notes right here as well. What do I have on our guards? All right, so what we're seeing here is that Wendell Moy, Sham Umarov, and Aiden Bussell were all working at left guard. And as far as right guard, it was Pendleton, it was Jesse Perry, and it was Gage Ginther. Now, with Bussell and with Perry, I'm I am anticipating that they were playing at Bussell playing at left guard, Perry playing at right guard based off of what we saw in the clips today. But for me, this is interesting that I didn't see any notes kind of highlighting this. But for me, what it looked like is it looked like we had a left guard going with a right tackle. And maybe that wasn't the case. It's hard to tell from some of these angles, but if that wasn't the case, the splits were really big. So I don't know if that was just for the sake of the drill or if Tennessee's working on something different where we're going to have really big splits. I mean, they were big enough that I was like, it's kind of in between. Maybe we've got a guy on the left side, a guy on the right side, or something. But if we're running really wide splits like that, that's different. Tennessee, I've never seen Tennessee run splits that wide. So that's something else for us to kind of look out for just as far as the scheme change and things like that. I mean, and that could mean a million different things. I don't want to speculate on it at this point. But let's really I'll also kind of talk about, so as far as the guards, I think that Jesse Perry, he's looking good. He's looked very sharp. I think that, obviously both of the transfer guys, they both look really good. They've got a lot of speed, really twitchy, really good, fundamentals and things like that. Now, I didn't get to see Sham yet. I don't think that I've really seen him do anything throughout all of spring. But we know that he looked really good last year. I mean, listen, I'm going to keep on saying it. The offensive line, at least on paper, if you look at the bodies, if you look at where players kind of left off at last season, understanding where they probably should be at this point, I feel really good. Now, offensive line is not just about it's not just necessarily about your physical skill set. It also, there's a lot of mental stuff. Like you have to, there's a lot that goes into playing offensive line. It's not as simple as just, hey, I'm bigger, stronger, faster than this guy, so I'm going to win. There's a lot of technique and fundamental things and understanding who to pick up in different situations, in different looks. Teams will give you some late shifts and stunts and blitzes. Picking all those things up, that's the next portion of it that we probably won't really see, but we can hear it, hopefully, from these insiders. They can, whoever their source is, can tell them, hey, these guys look really good. Like they're picking everything up. So that's the next portion of it. And, that's the place that I will say that Tennessee's guards, I'm not going to say that they struggled with it last season, but it's a place that we could get better at this year. Obviously, having those veterans coming in, I think that they both looked really good, picking up stunts and twists and things like that last season at different programs. How much does that change inside of a new scheme? That's yet to be seen. So let's go on to the next portion right here. Let's talk about Tennessee's center room. And I've got some notes here as well. I can tell you who I was playing at center. It was William Satterwhite. It sounds like he was number one, Max Anderson, and also it was Nick Moore. So Jesse Perry, at least from these notes, wasn't playing at center. They're working him out more at guard. What that tells me is there's a possibility. Now, okay, there's a possibility that maybe one of the guards is not stepping up quite as well. Maybe they're a little bit behind where the staff wants them to be at. And now they're saying, hey, Jesse, this is the spot. We're going to need for you to fill this up, okay? Because, we've got folks that aren't living up to what we thought they would be. I think that Jesse Perry can play any position on the offensive line. And I'm hoping that if right guard is where we feel the most comfortable with him at, let him play there more. And maybe that's what we're going to start to do now. Let him get comfortable. Let him get settled in there. If it's right side, let him be that right side guard. You got Sham on that left side. Let him get comfortable first, and then we can mix and match and move a little bit more after they've gotten more comfortable. Not to say that they're not. Just I have no idea. All right, so and that's pretty much it for the guard room. Now let's talk about these tackles because I feel like this tackle room, and we say it all the time, this tackle room is really good. It's really deep. We've got a lot of really good bodies. I've got some notes here as well. Let me go ahead and pull this up for you real quick. So as far as the notes, it sounds like Lance Hurd, Bennett Warren, and Trevor Duncan were all playing at left tackle. And right tackle was Larry Johnson, David Sanders, and Brian Grant. Now, I don't know, was Jesse Perry over there too? We talked about that. Maybe he was just playing at guard. Either way, okay, we're getting settled in here. Larry Johnson, David Sanders, that is going to be a battle. And I think that they're going to leave it like that, because the last thing that anybody wants to have happen is Larry Johnson goes to that transfer portal because he doesn't feel like he's going to get a real fair shake to play. But at the same time, I just think that you got to split up time, which is great for everybody. I mean, hey, listen, Larry Johnson, okay, there. I don't really care who starts. I would probably rather, and I don't even know, but maybe rather Larry Johnson get to start early on, but until David Sanders can get acclimated to it. But whoever, David Sanders is backing him up, or Larry Johnson is backing up David Sanders. Same thing on that left side. Lance Hurd starting off. Can Bennett Warren play left tackle for you? I also really love Trevor Duncan. Again, we really like Jesse Perry too. So we've got plenty of options for sure. And I just want everyone to get an opportunity to play. Someone's going to win. Someone's going to start. We won't know that until fall camp. It's pretty much, I would say, almost over with, especially on that right side. We know left tackle is going to be Lance Hurd. But it'll also be interesting to see how much does David Sanders, is he going to get cross-trained over at left tackle at all? And someone brought this up, because he's supposed to be our left tackle next year after Lance Hurd leaves. And he's going to play all year on the right side. That's tough. You know what I'm saying? I mean, maybe it's tough. I think David Sanders is a good enough athlete that he can play both sides. But it's going to be good for him to get those reps. But like we kind of talked about with all these players, especially the ones that's playing in a new spot, or that they're just new to this team period, let them get acclimated to what they're going to be doing first and foremost. And then once they've kind of mastered that, let's cross train them. So I love the fact that we are continuing with the versatility of all of our players. So my bad, y'all. I did not mean to. Let me pull this back up. Okay. So what do we have next? All right. So running backs. Didn't have a whole lot of notes right here, y'all, but I'll just kind of, we'll go through this one really quickly. So, Coach Heupel said that they're doing a good job with, moving without the football. So that's going to mean pass blocking. That could mean running routes, right? That could mean carrying out fakes. So that's a good thing. He didn't say anything necessarily about them actually running the football, but it's probably because we haven't done too much real pad work, real live work. So it's hard to tell. Everyone's going to look good. Listen, skilled players should always, you should look great going through drills. If a skilled player doesn't look good going through drills, we have a huge problem. So I think that's where Coach Hop was going with it. But something else that I saw, I think that this might have been from VolQuest, but they said that the running backs were working on the mesh concept, or we're working on mesh with the quarterbacks. So mesh can mean a couple different things. I don't know what they're talking about, maybe like the option mesh, and what sort of option was it? Is it speed option? Is it outside zone option, inside zone option? I would like to know that. Or it could have also been like a mesh passing concept. So a mesh passing concept, and I'll pull this back up. I'm going to pull these back up. So a mesh passing concept is whenever you see wide receivers running two drags, right? Like you're going to see two wide receivers running two drags, okay, and those will cross. Typically, running backs will either go out to the flats or on a wheel route or like on a rail route. So it's a really good man beater. It's a good cover two beater. It almost beats anything. It's a great concept. It's something that Tennessee hasn't run a lot of. We've done it some, but it's something that we need to implement more, I think. Whether it's in tight sets, which typically you will see mesh concepts out of tight sets. But has anyone ever tried to run it out of really wide splits like Tennessee did? I mean, I've never seen it. So that could be something that could be very interesting too. But I just want to kind of, bring those things up. Again, we're going to try some different things. Let me get to some more of these. Let me get some more of these chats because I do not want to get too far behind. So David Speaks is asking, which unit concerns you, wide receivers or cornerbacks going into the spring game? Concerns me. So I guess I would be more concerned about wide receivers right now going into that spring game just because of a lack of depth. At cornerback, I'm not overly concerned for a couple of reasons. I think that Ricky Gibson, and we haven't even gotten there yet, but we will kind of. But I think that Ricky Gibson, I think that J-Mac, they both look really good as starters. I love what I've seen so far from these freshmen. You got to see them in live situations to know what you really got. But and obviously, different schemes and things like that could hold Tennessee back as far as the different blitz packages and the different coverages and all that that we can do. But I'm not overly concerned about cornerback. I'm not overly concerned about wide receiver either because I think all the players that's inside of that room, and I'm adding Boo to that mix. I think all those guys look good, but I just think that we need to add maybe one more body just to be safe. That's my only thing. I just want to make sure that we're not in a situation where, you know, something happens and, you know, we don't have enough scholarship bodies out. That's my only thing. And also, they're still very young. But I think that this is a good thing for Tennessee to have these young guys get more of an opportunity where, hey, look, you don't got that crutch of these older players of these vets. You got to be ready. So you have to dedicate yourself to being ready to step up in these really big situations. You got to get your mind right. So I just think that it's going to end up working itself out. And I trust Coach Heupel with this, man. Like I think that he's done a good job of making sure that our roster, whenever it's all said and done heading into a season, we've got what we need, or we've done the best that we could do to get where we need to get to. I mean, listen, the roster we had last season went to the playoffs. Not many vets, but I think it's better talent on this year's roster. So the next one is from Scott V, saying that seems like we are more athletic on the offensive line now, especially at guard, 100%. And I wouldn't even say especially at guard. I would say at tackle too. You know, I just think that, especially if you're looking at those younger players, just the caliber of offensive linemen from a talent perspective that we've gone out and that we were able to close on and bring to this team. I'm really happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I think that we will all be very happy with it coming up this season and for the foreseeable future. So from D. Taylor is saying that Jermod tore his ACL in January. As far as I know, that's a 1 year plus recovery. So I've mentally written him off for the entire season. So it's not really. I mean, it really it's going to vary. It's definitely going to vary. So you can get back as soon as like 6 months. That would put him like right around this, you know, like first, second game. He could be fully cleared to just really run around. But he's probably going to need those first couple of weeks to really, you know, get himself back into game shape and things like that. So I think that he will play. He might play some in the second week, but I think that for sure by the Georgia week, in the third week, I think that he will play. If he doesn't, then he'll come back, you know, maybe right after that. But it's just obviously everyone's different. Hopefully he's not going to be in a bad situation. Sounds like things are going well for him. He's already doing some bike work and rehabbing and all of that. You know, so I think that he's going to be back. That's just for me personally, but I understand what you're saying. It typically does take a very long time. Like we know with Jordan Thomas, it's taken him a long time to get back. You know, for him, it's been close to about a year. I guess it's probably been close to 8 or 9 months now. So we'll see. We will see. Let me also get to this one. And so D is also saying that was a long way of saying I'm worried about our cornerback room. Yeah, no, listen, I most definitely felt where you was going with it. But I think that obviously, dude, man, like he's a really good corner. For me, he's the best cornerback in the entire country. We kind of hinted to that when we watched this film, you know, prior to last, as soon as he transferred in, said, man, he looks really good. I mean, he's doing everything that you would ask for. He can play inside, he can play outside, off the ball, press. He's physical, he's big, you know, just everything. It's not easy to go out and find somebody that can shut down man-to-man, and that opens the defense up tremendously. If you have two cornerbacks, him and Ricky Gibson, that can play man-to-man coverage, everything else is pretty much gravy. You know, like we can do a lot of different things. So, you know, yeah, I still think that I think that J-Mac has looked really good. I think that William Wright's a guy that could probably step up for some at star that's been inside of the system for several years. So I just think that we're going to find a way to make it all work. Defense, I don't know. Like I just kind of feel like defense, you can manufacture a lot of different things. You definitely can. And I think that Coach Banks, this could be another thing that's really good for Tennessee, where Coach Banks can't just lean on, hey, I don't want to call it lazy, but hey, I'm just going to just kind of do some, you know, like I'm just going to lean on the fact that I've got really good cornerbacks or that I've got a really strong pass rush, which we saw in a couple of games, and not bring as much pressure and not, you know, think outside of the box as much. That can hurt you. So it might be good for him long term. It might be good for the whole team long term for us to learn how to win without one of our best cornerbacks. See what I'm saying? It's going to get people ready, but that's just kind of where I'm at with it. All right, so let me get back to this. All right, so running back room, we already went through that. Let's go on to the next one. So tackle room, right? We didn't really see nothing from those guys. I don't have any notes from them either. Really, there's not too many notes or anything on defense. Period. Point blank. The only thing is that do we have somebody got upgraded here? No. Okay, so nobody got upgraded with our tackle room. But again, like we always say, these young guys are getting a whole bunch of reps. They're going to need those reps. We're going to be better for it whenever the season actually starts. You know, I think that Ethan Utley, man, I thought that he looked good. Like his burst It looked good today. So as far as the strong side ends, I think that Tyree Weathersby looked pretty solid. Tyree West, he looks good. That Campbell looks good. Kellen Lindstrom, I think that Carson Gentle, both of those guys, man, they've got so much twitch to them, don't they? I mean, there's some really twitchy players. I don't know how much they actually weigh, but they look a little lean to me. Okay, and I could be off. Sometimes guys, P and I talk about this all the time. Sometimes guys, we'll just call it. Guys might be about 240, or they might look like they're 240, but they're really like 275. Those guys are typically really good athletes. You know what I'm saying? Like they're very, very solid. That's all muscle. So we will see how that room looks. But I actually feel fine. And, I feel fine about our line, y'all, honestly speaking. Now, we'll also talk about Tennessee's Leo room. So Joshua Josephs, we saw him some. Looked good. Jordan Ross, as we just talked about, looked really good, very twitchy. He's going to be a major problem. Caleb Herring. So I don't have him highlighted here, but I should have done that. So he's not doing anything, or he didn't do anything today. I think he had maybe like a knee wrap or something. I didn't really talk about Nathan Robinson, but Nathan Robinson sounds like he had his knee wrapped up and a cast on his hand. He can play. Okay, both of those guys, as far as I know, if your knee is just wrapped up, if you're not in some sort of a cast, you can still play. So these guys, if this was a game week, they probably wouldn't be doing much practicing, but they're going to play if we need them on Saturdays. So, but this Leo room, whenever everyone gets healthy, and we see Jaden right here, he's upgraded to yellow. Whenever everyone gets healthy, it's going to be a major problem. So linebackers, right? And I'll pull this back up for y'all. Again, we talked about both of the Jadens. They've been upgraded, so we're in a really good spot there. Want to see them moving around. But, yeah, linebackers to me looked really good. I think that room's really deep. They look very focused. They look laser focused, something I really like to look for. I think with any spot, but maybe more so with those linebackers, is just perfect technique, perfect fundamentals, and getting off blocks, buzzing your feet, shedding with proper leverage, taking proper angles, keeping your eyes right, popping that pad once you get to it. Little things like that is what I've been seeing from our linebackers. I think that they're going to have a really good year. Excuse me. And again, we haven't even seen everybody. So you got to feel great about that. That's been a problem for Tennessee's defense. Not so much last season. I don't think the linebackers were perfect, but the seasons prior to that, it just was not great. But now we're starting to turn that into a strength of our team. So that's always very, very positive. All right, next let's talk about Tennessee star room. Jordan Thomas, like we said, hopefully he can get back at some point. Probably won't be until fall camp. But Boo Carter's looked really good. Caleb Beasley, man, haven't seen him necessarily moving around too much, but just from a physical standpoint, looks really good. I think that he looks a little bit more lean, right? He still looks big, like he looked big last season, but he looked a little bit like big and puffy last year, where this season he looks more big and solid. Like it looks like some dry muscle. So that's a very positive thing. He's a guy that can play star, he can play corner, he can play safety. I just want to see and hear some more, which I haven't heard anything negative. Everything that we've heard about him has been positive, which is great. So we'll see what happens there. But I still kind of feel like Dylan Lewis and Marcus Gorey. I also think that Trey, He's looked really good. I think we've got a whole lot of options here. Like we always say, that's going to help Boo to get on the offensive side of the ball more. Cornerbacks, we just kind of touched on this. So Ricky Gibson, I want to start off with him. And I'm going to let this thing roll again, but I want to start off with Ricky because actually let me start this thing over. So for Ricky, okay, I've noticed this now. I've noticed it since spring camp kind of started up. And actually, I could almost say feels like maybe it's gotten a little bit worse, but I don't necessarily want to call it lackadaisical because I think that his form and his technique looks really good, but the sense of urgency, and this is just how I see it, the sense of urgency is not high enough for me. I need to see a higher sense of urgency. I need to see a higher sense of effort. I need to see you almost overdoing this, right? Because that's what spring is for. If you're just kind of going through those emotions, yeah, you've done this for, for 3 seasons now. So you know what to do, but push yourself. Like, all right, so look, watch him here. Watch him here. Okay, look at that. Okay, so look, everything looks perfect there, right? Except there's not enough strain for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that's why Coach Sims was kind of laying into him some, or not really laying into him, but he's trying to fire him up. There's another angle of this where you can see Coach Sims really showing him. He's buzzing hard. I could tell by his body language, he wants more energy. You know what I'm saying? Like he wants a little bit more energy. So that's something to watch out for with Ricky Gibson. He's going to have to bring that, and I listen, I could be off. I'm not trying to paint this picture of him being lazy or that he's not working hard. I'm not saying that, What I am saying is he's very confident. Okay, he knows how good he is, and sometimes you get a little bit laxed. That's all that I'm saying. So I just need for that fire to kind of come back from him, like he's trying to fight to get a starting spot. See what I'm saying? I think that'd be very beneficial for Tennessee. But outside of that, I love how the cornerback room has looked so far. Some really good looking bodies. You're not really going to know until we get some more extensive notes, until we get some scrimmage notes and things like that. Maybe until we can hear from Coach Martinez. Like it's tough because they're going through these drills. They're going to look good going through all these drills because they are extremely high level athletes. They're some of the best athletes on the face of the planet. So as far as Tennessee safety room, Andre Turntine, didn't really get to see him today. I didn't really get to see much of the safeties. Who all did we actually see? I think that we saw Farouk. And I think that might really be it for. Yeah, do we see John Slaughter? Maybe I don't know, but yeah, that's a room that obviously we're all watching very closely. We're all watching it closely. I mean, this is such a pivotal part of Tennessee's defense. We talked about Tennessee's corners, right? When you have cornerbacks that can man up, lock down, the safeties don't necessarily mean too much because the safeties can go do other things. Like you don't need a safety to play over the top. Put that safety inside of the box or let them, just roam free. Wouldn't that be something if Tennessee could find a safety where we just, hey, look, you just line up wherever you want to line up at and just go do whatever. That would be a huge problem if we could find a player like that. But my whole point here is that knowing that we'll be a little bit shorthanded at cornerback, the safeties mean even more to this defense as far as the coverages go and all of that. It's going to change a lot about how is Tennessee going to look in a third down situation. Can we go cover 0? Can we go cover 1? Or does it need to be covered 2? See what I'm saying? So safeties will most definitely. That one's going to be really big. But I think that's pretty much it. Let me get to the rest of these chats. Let me get to the rest of these chats right here. So this one right here is from Fuzzy saying that the rumor with Jordan Thomas, with Jordan Thomas's injury, is that he may not play football again. Yeah, so I've heard that kind of speculated out there. Some I haven't seen it mentioned by anybody that I would consider necessarily credible. Right, like anyone that's close enough to the program that I would say, hey, this is a pretty credible thing. But also, sometimes you can tell a lot. Like silence can tell you a lot. I haven't necessarily seen them coming out countering some of those conversations either. So maybe that is the case, and I hope and I'm praying that that's not the case. All right, like I would hate that for Jordan Thomas. So we will see. Excuse me. Also from David Speaks is saying that why are Gas and Perlotti as Leos instead of linebackers? So all right, so Perlotti is with the linebackers. So I'm gonna go back to that. So Perlotti is with the linebackers. I'll show it to you. So Jaden's with the linebackers, but he's also with those Leos. And I think and Gas is also with the linebackers and also with the Leos. Now, Gas is listed as I think he's listed as a D lineman or as an end or something like that on Tennessee's website. So he's going to get his start at Leo, but he's also going to get cross trained playing at linebacker. Jaden, he's going to get cross trained at Leo and at linebacker. Okay, these are things that we know. So that's why I have them inside of both of the rooms, just to kind of show you the, maybe like real depth. See what I'm saying? Because sometimes, you think, oh, this guy's just a linebacker. But no, we've been, like the staff is planning on cross-training them, somewhere else so they can play in different spots. But so that's why it looks the way that it looks. And this right here is from Detailer saying that he wishes that we had Hayward in the safety room. Man, listen, I feel the exact same way. So I've been watching some clips of Florida, and I've seen Shady run out there. I don't know if he's with the safeties or if he's with the linebackers, just because of some of the numbers. You know how it is. Like spring, they're gonna have some weird numbers. But man, he's really big. I mean, he looks big out there. He would have been, really good. I mean, we talked about it. You watch his film. I've watched maybe 2 or 3 full games from him. He's a very good football player. But see, look, this is the thing about it, right? Is that transfer portal? That's a real thing. Would he maybe reconsider and want to come back home? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it could be a situation where maybe he wants to do that. Do we have a spot for him? I'm sure that we do. I mean, I would hold us. You know what I'm saying? I would make sure that we have a spot for him. But yeah, I most definitely feel you on that one, D. I think that Shady, he's a good player. You know what I'm saying? I know some people are kind of like upset with him or whatever. But hey, man, this stuff is about business. You know what I'm saying? This is about business. You can't take it too personal. But that's pretty much it, y'all. Don't have any more notes to get to. But I think that for coming off of spring break, I think that we were in good shape. Players didn't look like they were out of shape. I mean, look at Ethan Davis here. He's going up against a smaller guy, but I like the fact that he's showing a little bit of grit there. He's showing a little bit of bully ball. Now I want to see him do that with do that versus somebody bigger. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, so anyway, that's going to be it, y'all. But thank you as always for watching. Please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And we will see y'all maybe a little bit later on today. If not, we'll see y'all on the next one. All right, so actually, let me get to this one real quick before we end it. This one right here is from Lofton SR94. What's going on, bro? Saying that has Harmon been on film? Have not seen him doing anything on film, him or the other Jaden. Haven't seen him on film at all yet, but we're all very excited, to see how they look. But they're both going to be really good. But anyway, that's going to be it. Thank y'all so much. Please do make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.